This week Alysa Liu appeared on the cover of Teen Vogue. 2 Olympic gold medals. 7 million Instagram followers. A world title defense in Prague in less than 3 weeks. The most talked about athlete in America. And in the cover interview she said something that the sports world is currently trying very hard to figure out what to do with. She said, "I pick hanging out with my friends over a session. And if that makes me a worse skater, so be it. I do not care. I will jeopardize whatever. I will jeopardize whatever." From a 2-time Olympic champion. From the first American woman to win individual Olympic figure skating gold in 24 years. From the most accomplished figure skater in America right now, who has a world championship defense coming up in 3 weeks and a potential 2030 Olympic campaign after that. She would jeopardize all of it for her friends. The internet immediately split into 2 camps. The first camp said this is insane. No serious elite athlete says this. No coach on earth teaches this. Every performance philosophy from every sport in every country says the opposite. Sacrifice. Prioritize. Choose the work over everything else. That is the price of excellence. The second camp said this is the most mentally healthy thing any athlete has ever said publicly. And also she already won 2 gold medals, so maybe the first camp should be quiet. Both camps are missing what she is actually saying. And this video is about what she is actually saying. To understand, I will jeopardize whatever. You have to understand where it came from. Because it did not come from nowhere. It came from the specific ruins of the version of herself that had been built on exactly the opposite philosophy. From the age of 5 to the age of 16, Alysa Liu's life was the sacrificial model. The one the coaches and the federations and the elite sports industrial complex insists is the only path to greatness. Everything for the skating. Nothing that competes with the skating. She described it to the Associated Press. She said she would live at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado alone in a dorm. She would eat their food. She went to the rink, skated, ate lunch, skated more, went back to the dorm. She said she did not go anywhere. She did not see anything. She was just there. Christmas alone. Holidays away from her family. No driver's license until after she retired. No late nights with siblings. No friends in the normal sense of the word, because friends require time and time was not available because the rink needed everything time could give. She gave the rink everything. She went to Beijing at 16 and finished 6th. And then she came home and said the word that the system was not built to hear from someone in her position. She said she was done. She said skating felt like a job. She said she felt satisfied and ready to move on. She gave everything the model asked for. And the model left her empty. The 2 years that followed were the years that built I will jeopardize whatever. She went to UCLA. She got her driver's license. She took her first vacation. She had her first real friendships in the way that people who have been to elite training camps since age 10 never quite get to have. She climbed to the base camp of Everest with her friends. She played Fortnite until 4 in the morning. She dyed her hair. She pierced her own lip with a needle while her sister held a mirror. She also said her mental health during the peak of her first career had been absolutely horrible. Not difficult. Not challenging. Absolutely horrible. And what fixed it was not a new training regimen or a sports psychologist or a technical adjustment. What fixed it was friendship. Human connection. The specific, ordinary, profound experience of being around people who knew her for herself and not for her jumps. She said surrounding herself with the right people was crucial. She said that is the thing that grounded her. She said learning to drive meant she could go out more and hang out with her siblings and do things. She built herself back together using human connection as the primary material. And when she came back to skating in 2024, she brought that understanding with her and refused to leave it at the door. The deal she made with her coaches before the comeback is worth quoting in full because every word of it is a direct refutation of something the old system had done to her. She said, "I made a deal with my coaches. No one tells me what I am gonna wear. No one tells me how my hair is gonna be. No one is gonna try to change me. I am going to pick my own programs and skate the sessions I want to skate. You are my coaches. You are going to help me and lead me in training. But I am structuring it the way I want to." That deal is the foundation of "I will jeopardize whatever." Because what she was saying to her coaches was not just about costumes and hair. It was about the right to make all decisions about her own life. Including the decision to skip a training session when her friends needed her. Including the decision to prioritize the relationships that had rebuilt her over the sport that had once dismantled her. The coaches agreed. And then she went and won everything on exactly those terms. Here are the other quotes from her recent interviews that belong in the same philosophical family as "I will jeopardize whatever." Because when you put them all together, they are not just quotes. They are a complete worldview that she has been building and testing and living for 2 years. She said, "I connect with everything, but I am not attached to anything. So it is really easy." That sentence is the one the internet has been calling Buddha-like. It describes a relationship with experience where you are fully present and fully engaged but not grasping. Not holding on. Not terrified of loss because you have already made peace with the possibility of it. She competed at the Olympics with that relationship to the outcome, and it looked like a smile through every jump and a photographer moment with her coaches during warm-up. She said, "Winning is not all that. And neither is losing. It is just something that happens. It is the outcome. But what matters is the input and the journey." From a woman holding 2 gold medals. That is not false modesty. That is the honest testimony of someone who has been on both ends of the outcome spectrum and discovered that neither one was where the actual life was happening. The life was in the input. The journey. The MacArthur Park program she tested 15 versions of. The dress she designed herself. The friends she chose over sessions without apology. She said, "There is no way to lose." 4 words. From someone who has competed at the Olympic level since she was 13 years old. No way to lose. Not because winning is guaranteed. Because the framework she operates in does not recognize loss as a final verdict on anything. You fall on a jump in front of 100 million people and you smile and keep going because the fall is information, not a conclusion. She said, "I love struggling actually. It makes me feel alive. Not I tolerate struggling. Not I push through struggling. I love it. It makes me feel alive." The specific counterintuitive embrace of difficulty as the place where the most interesting version of yourself gets to show up. A 20-year-old saying this from the other side of PTSD and an eating disorder and a retirement and a complete identity reconstruction. She said, "I don't need a medal. I just need to be here and show people what I can do." That was before the competition in Milan. She did not need the medal. She needed the ice. The program she had built. The people in the stands. The feeling of doing it her way on the biggest stage possible. She also said, "I would have been fine either way. I would have been loving life outside of skating just as much as winning gold medals." That sentence is the most radical thing she has said in all of it. Not the Jeopardize quote. Not the "winning is not all that" quote. This one. Because she is describing a version of herself that is genuinely untethered from the outcome. Not pretending to be. Not performing equanimity for the cameras. Actually living in a place where winning Olympic gold and not winning Olympic gold are both acceptable outcomes because the thing that makes life good is not the medal. It is the people. It is the connection. It is the friends she picks over training sessions without caring what it costs her rankings. Here's why this philosophy is so disorienting to the sports world right now. The entire infrastructure of elite athletics is built on the sacrificial model. Sacrifice is valorized. Rest is weakness. Friendships are distractions. Anything that competes with training is a threat. The athletes who win are supposed to be the ones who gave the most. Who skipped the most parties. Who sat alone in the most hotel rooms in the most cities while their peers were living ordinary lives. Alysa Liu did all of that. From 5 to 16. And she broke. And then she rebuilt herself on the exact opposite values. Connection over isolation. Joy over obligation. Friends over sessions. Being loved for herself over being admired for her jumps. And then she went back to the sport and became the best in the world. That sequence is the thing the coaches and the federations and the sacrificial model cannot process. Because if she won without sacrificing the things the model says you have to sacrifice, then what is the model actually for? She answered that question in a Fast Company interview this week where she said taking a step away from the sport allowed her to understand herself because she never had the time or the space to figure out who she was before. And that understanding yourself, knowing who you are when you are not performing excellence for an audience, is what makes sustainable excellence possible in the first place. Without knowing who she was, the excellence was a building with no foundation. It won medals and produced records and looked from the outside like success. And from the inside it was absolutely horrible mental health and traumatic memory suppression and the feeling of being a dress-up doll. With knowing who she is, the excellence is a building on bedrock. It is fun. It is a smile through every jump. It is a photographer moment with her coach's 60 seconds before the most important skate of her life. It is I will jeopardize whatever said from the cover of Teen Vogue with zero anxiety about what any coach or federation or achievement-obsessed commentator thinks about it. Daniel Radcliffe met her backstage at the Today Show after the Olympics. She offered to let him wear one of her gold medals. He chose to hold it instead and said wearing it feels like stolen valor. And then he said something about watching her compete that has been shared almost as many times as her own quotes. He said it was the most joyful thing I have watched. Not the most technically impressive. Not the most historically significant. Not the most dominant or the most precise or the most athletic. The most joyful. A 20-year-old who was told for 11 years that skating was a job, that her body was an instrument, that water had weight and so did she, that programs and costumes were decisions for other people. That excellence required giving up everything that made her human, went to Milan and showed the world what excellence looks like when it comes from joy instead of from sacrifice. And then she came home. She did whatever she wanted for 5 days. She saw her friends. She caught up on sleep. She skated twice. Just because she wanted to. She picked her friends over a session. She did not care what it cost. She would jeopardize whatever. She has 2 gold medals. She has figured something out that most elite athletes spend their whole careers either never finding or finding too late. That the friendships are not the cost of greatness. They are the ground it grows from. Human connection is what she is all about. She said so herself. And the gold medals are just what happened when she finally got to prove it.